Hey! Mama Shade just disappeared. Run!
The bustling market of Onyxville was alive with sounds and scents that could awaken even the laziest soul. Vendors shouted out their wares, the aroma of roasted peanuts mingled with fried plantains, and children dashed between stalls, laughing and playing. But above all, one thing stood out: the scent of rice. At the center of the market stood Mama Said's stall, famous for its jollof rice. The food had a taste that seemed almost otherworldly, and no one could replicate it, no matter how hard they tried. Customers claimed they felt a sense of warmth and joy with every bite. Every day, people lined up, sometimes for hours, just to get a plate. Mama Said. One man called out, "You must tell us your secret. How do you make rice so good?" Mama Said chuckled softly, her voice calm and almost soothing. "It's love, my dear. I cook with love, and that's all." Her response always made people smile. But one young boy, Kunal, found it hard to believe. Kunal, a clever and curious 12-year-old, was known for noticing things others didn't. That day, as he stood with his mother in line for the rice, he observed Mama Said closely. She never seemed to sweat, even though the fire burned hot. Her movements were fluid, almost too perfect, as if she were gliding rather than walking. And then there was her shadow, or rather, the lack of one. "Mom," Kunal whispered, tugging at his mother's wrapper. "Do you see that? Mama Said doesn't have a shadow." His mother laughed and brushed off his comment. "Stop being silly, Kunal. Focus on the food." But Kunal couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As he ate his rice, he watched Mama Said closely. He noticed that no one ever saw her arrive at the market or leave. She was just there. That night, Kunal lay awake in bed, the delicious taste of the rice still on his tongue, and the strange sight of Mama Said haunting his thoughts. "I'm going to find out the truth," he vowed to himself. The next day, Kunal returned to the market with his best friend, Ao. Together, they observed Mama Said's stall from a distance. As always, a long line stretched before her, and the sound of laughter and satisfied sighs filled the air as customers enjoyed her rice. "Kunal, this is ridiculous," Ao said, chewing a stick of sugarcane. "She's just a great cook. Let's go buy some snacks instead." But Kunal wasn't convinced. "There's something strange about her, Ao. She's not like the other vendors. Have you ever seen her buy ingredients or even carry anything to the market?" Ao paused, thinking. "Well, now that you mention it, no. But maybe she cooks everything at home and brings it here early." "Wait," Kunal said, though he wasn't satisfied. "Let's wait until the market closes tonight. I want to see where she goes." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the market began to empty, Kunal and Ao hid behind a stack of baskets near Mama Said's stall. They watched her as she served her last customer, cleaned her cooking pots, and packed up her stall. But instead of heading towards the main road like the other vendors, Mama Said took a different path, one that led toward the edge of the forest. "Come on," Kunal Ao's hand. "You're crazy," Ao hissed, but he followed reluctantly. They trailed Mama Said from a safe distance, careful to stay hidden among the shadows. The path grew darker, and the cheerful sounds of the market faded behind them. Soon, they found themselves on a narrow dirt road surrounded by thick trees. Mama Said walked ahead of them, her figure almost glowing in the moonlight. Then she did something that made Kunal and Ao freeze in their tracks. She began to hum a haunting melody. The sound was soft at first, but it grew louder, echoing through the trees. Suddenly, she stopped in front of an old, crumbling hut. The boys crouched behind a bush as they watched her push open the door and step inside. "Are we really doing this?" Ao whispered, his voice trembling. "We have to," Kunal replied, his heart pounding. "We are so close." They crept closer to the hut, peering through a small crack in the wooden wall. Inside, Mama Said stood by her pots, which now glowed with an eerie blue light. As she stirred the rice, her form began to change. Her vibrant figure faded, revealing a ghostly, transparent body. Kunal's eyes widened in shock. She's a ghost," he whispered. Kunal and Ao crouched silently, their breaths shallow as they watched the strange scene unfold inside. Mama Said's ghostly form moved gracefully around the glowing pot, humming a haunting tune in whispers. And though the whispers were faint, they sent chills down the boys' spines. This rice binds them to me. As long as they eat, they will never suspect. Their joy feeds my curse, and their love keeps me here. What does she mean? Ao whispered, clutching Kunnal's arm. I don't know, Kunnal replied, barely able to tear his eyes away. Inside the hut, Mama Said dipped her hand into the pot, and the glowing rice seemed to respond to her touch, swelling and shimmering as if alive. She lifted a handful of the rice, and it disintegrated into the air like mist, filling the room with an otherworldly glow. Suddenly, Mama Said stopped. Her head snapped toward the crack in the wall, and her glowing eyes locked onto the boy's hiding spot. Who is there? She called out, her voice echoing unnaturally. Kunnal and Ao froze. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Mama Said moved toward the door, her steps slow but purposeful. Run, Kunnal whispered, grabbing Ao's arm. The boys bolted, their feet pounding against the dirt road as Mama Said's voice rang out behind them. You shouldn't have come here, children. The air grew cold as they ran, and the path seemed to stretch endlessly. Kunnal dared a glance over his shoulder, and saw Mama Said gliding after them, her ghostly form barely touching the ground. Faster, he shouted. They burst out of the forest and onto the edge of the market, where the comforting sounds of the town began to return. As they reached the safety of the market square, Mama Said stopped at the forest's edge, her glowing figure fading into the darkness. You can't escape the truth forever, her voice echoed before the forest fell silent. Panting, Kunnal and Ao collapsed onto the ground, their faces pale. What just happened? Ao stammered. She's not human, Kunnal said, his voice trembling. Mama Said is a ghost, and that rice, it's part of some curse. We have to tell someone. The next morning, Kunnal and Ao shared their terrifying discovery with Kunnal's parents. At first, his father, Mr. Adisa, laughed it off. A ghost in the market? You boys must have been dreaming, but Kunnal was insistent. I saw it with my own eyes, Papa. Mama Said isn't human. She's using the rice to keep people under some kind of spell. His mother, Mrs. Adisa, frowned thoughtfully. It's true that no one knows much about Mama Said. She's always been different. Maybe we should inform the elders. By noon, a small group of village elders had gathered at the Adisa's house. Kunnal told the story in vivid detail, with Ao adding nervous confirmations. Though skeptical at first, the elders decided to investigate. We'll go to the forest tonight, Elder Michael declared. If this story is true, we must put an end to whatever is happening. That evening, as darkness fell, Kunnal, Ao, and the elders made their way to the edge of the forest. The air was thick with tension, and even the insects seemed quieter than usual. Kunnal led them down the dirt path, his heart pounding with every step. When they reached the old hut, it looked even more eerie than before. The wooden walls seemed to sag under some invisible weight, and the faint smell of cooked rice lingered in the air. Stay back, Elder Michael said, motioning for the boys to remain outside. The elders pushed open the door cautiously, their lanterns casting flickering lights in the dim interior. Inside, the pot stood in the center of the room, glowing faintly as before. The air shimmered with an unnatural energy, but Mama Said was nowhere to be seen. Is this some kind of trick? One elder muttered, stepping closer to the pot. Suddenly, the pot began to bubble violently, and a cold wind swept through the room. Mama Said's ghostly form materialized before them, her eyes glowing with an unearthly light. Why have you come here? She demanded, her voice echoing. The elders stood their ground, though fear was etched on their faces. Elder Michael stepped forward. Mama Said, what are you? Why are you doing this to our people? Mama Said's expression softened, and for a moment, she looked almost human again. I was cursed long ago, she said, her voice tinged with sorrow. I was a proud cook who wanted to be the best, no matter the cost. I sought help from a dark spirit, and in exchange for unmatched skills, I lost my soul. Now, I'm bound to this place, feeding on the joy my rice brings to others. It's the only way I can exist. But you're deceiving the people, another elder shouted. This must stop. Mama Said's eyes glowed brighter. Stop me, and you will doom me to wander in eternal torment. Let me stay, and I will continue to bring happiness to the market. The choice is yours. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. Elder Michael turned to Kunnel. You discovered this. What do you think we should do? Kunnel hesitated, torn between pity and fear. Finally, he said, the people deserve the truth. If she is bound by a curse, maybe there is a way to free her. Mama Said's expression changed, a glimmer of hope flickering in her eyes. There is, but it comes at a price. The room grew still as everyone waited for Mama Said to explain. Her ghostly form hovered over the glowing pot, and the shadows around her seemed to dance. The curse binds me to this pot, she began, her voice soft but heavy with regret. To break it, someone must willingly take my place. They must offer their soul to the curse and endure the burden I have carried for decades. Only then will I be free. The elders gasped, murmuring among themselves, the weight of her words hanging in the air like a storm cloud. That's not fair, Kunnel said, stepping forward. His voice was steady despite his trembling hands. Why should someone else have to suffer for your mistake? Mama Said's expression darkened. Fair? Do you think I wanted this? I was desperate, blinded by pride and greed. I have lived through endless moments, watching, feeding, but never leaving. This is the only way. Elder Michael lifted his hand to silence the group. If we leave this curse unbroken, what happens to you and to us? Mama Said sighed, her ghostly form flickering. I will continue to exist, feeding on the joy of those who eat my rice. But as time passes, the hunger will grow. Eventually, I will need more than happiness. I will take their souls. The elders recoiled in horror. Kunnel felt a shiver run down his spine. Elder BC, the oldest and wisest among them, stepped forward. Her voice was firm. If this curse cannot be broken without harming anybody, then we must destroy the pot. If it binds you, perhaps its destruction will set you free. No, Mama Said cried, her form surging with energy. You don't understand. Destroying this pot will destroy me. I will vanish into nothingness, lost forever. Elder BC turned to the group. The choice is clear. We cannot sacrifice another soul to this curse. It's time to end it once and for all. The other elders nodded in agreement. But Kunnel hesitated. Wait, he said. If we destroy her, aren't we as cruel as the spirits that cursed her? There must be another way. Mama Said looked at Kunnel, her expression softening. Child, you have a kind heart, but sometimes there is no other way. I have accepted my fate. Elder Michael raised his staff, preparing to smash the pot. Mama Said closed her eyes, her form flickering like a dying flame. Do it, she whispered. With one swift motion, the staff came down, shattering the pot into pieces. A blinding light filled the room, and a chilling wail echoed through the air. Mama Said's ghostly form dissolved into mist, and then there was silence. The next day, the market was quieter than usual. Mama Said's stall stood empty, the lingering smell of her rice a bittersweet memory. Kunnel walked through the market with Ao, his heart heavy. Do you think she's at peace now? Ao asked. Kunnel nodded slowly. I hope so. She made a mistake, but she didn't deserve to suffer forever. The elders later held a gathering, explaining what had happened. The villagers mourned the loss of Mama Said, but they were grateful to be free from the curse. Late that night, as Kunnel lay in bed, he thought he heard a faint humming in the breeze. It was the same melody Mama Said used to sing, gentle and haunting. Smiling softly, he whispered, "Rest now, Mama Said. Rest in peace." Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.